good evening. It's me, Doomlink, and my voice is fucked again. You guys haven't really heard me with my fucked voice. I've been avoiding recording when my voice is fucked. It's actually not too bad at the moment. It's, not been worse than this week, but basically I was hit with a second wave of sickness. Not the same as before. Before was a bit more intense. Well, I shouldn't even say intense. Enough for me not to be able to go to work, but not, like, debilitating in any extreme way. But, yeah, yesterday and the day before, sort of, had a lot of, sinus issues, I guess, and whatever else, and managed to affect my voice for some reason. So, yeah, just coming off that a little bit, and that's the reason why I haven't really been recording this week, even though I had undertaken to do that. It's an explanation, and whether or not you'll accept it is, quite frankly, up to you, but I am back, I'm live, and the main reason why I'm recording now is because I feel like I'm not really in a position to not record, because at that point it's just going to become too infrequent, and, yeah, I wouldn't want that now, would I? Unacceptably infrequent recordings is, by definition, unacceptable, so... In other words, a minimum of one recording per week, I think, is fair. Minimum, bare minimum. Alright. Turn player 1 to player 4, obviously suggesting that sequentially you will start at player 1, end up at player 4, and then go back. The sad thing is that this person felt that it was necessary to actually write that. This is not a criticism of the person, it's a criticism of the community, because quite frankly, it stands to reason that you would go in descending order from the, join position, but no, some people actually don't understand that, and let me assure you that even with that written in the hub name, that is still going to be a point of considerable confusion for a small percentage of people who may possibly join the room. Ukanlos, I don't mind joining. One thing that I do mind, however, and it's not affecting you, is the fact that my television keeps on going black and then coming back, which is a cute rhyme. But, yeah, it's going to affect my hunting if that continues while I'm actually playing the game, so I don't know if there's a solution for that. Maybe I can... Well, unfortunately, trying to resolve the issue will actually start to affect your ability to watch, because it will go blank. And, yeah, I've never actually come across it before where it goes blank for some reason and then comes back. I suppose I've come across it many, many years ago, but not with my recent setup, so I don't know what's causing it. Yeah, Polar Peril, we know what's on the board. I just need to get myself organised. I'm not going to two-man with this person. I'm not interested in doing that. Things are okay, Himari. Again, I apologise that I do not sound 100%. It's because I'm not 100%. Well, I'm actually, basically 100% in terms of how I feel. I felt a little bit, yesterday. But today I feel pretty good. It's just that my throat is not... it doesn't have the sort of smoothness that it usually does. Probably sounds a little bit rougher. Yeah, I don't know. Strangely, there's more of a... Now, why would that be? There's more of a delay than usual between the game and that, so... What would be causing that? Let me think. Yeah. One of the issues with recording live, and I've explained it before, is that when things go wrong, you have to actually troubleshoot and then resolve it while live, which, if you're like me and presentation is kind of important, it has a negative effect on the, the live stream. So, yeah, here's what it is. I do feel like using Lance, so I'm going to use a Lance. What I'm going to do while live is try to resolve this. Where is my fire lance? Here we go. Glavinus Grand Nova. We've got Mizutsune again. Remember him from the last recording? The part 200 and whatever it was? Thanks, Doomlink. That's really helpful. If you're going to mention the actual part number, maybe know what it is, because that's not helpful. Anyway, just count backwards from the current number by 1, and you will have the part number. His name is Mizutsune, but he doesn't actually have anything relating to Mizutsune equipped, which is strange, because, as I said in the previous recording, you would imagine that if you're going to go to the trouble of naming yourself after a monster, you'd equip that monster's stuff. Maybe just to have a nice... just to tie it in with your name, and to really assert yourself as the most Mizutsune-obsessed hunter of the Generations Ultimate community, but... didn't really... there's no game audio. Really? Well, thanks for that. It's very clear that there is some troubleshooting that I have to go through. Hopefully Faktna will be patient enough to allow me to do that. I'll be back in a moment. I did the classic unplug everything and plug everything back in. One would hope that that has solved the issue. We've got Mizutsune looking quite restless. And, yeah. That means that I should probably get myself ready again. Now, obviously, it's going to be during the hunt that I find out whether or not I'm still having display issues on my television, which is not great, because as I said, your screen going blank when you're trying to hunt is probably not that conducive to effective and, let's just say, skillful play. I may even perform an edit in the VOD, because I don't really like a period of literally nothing being on the screen. It's acceptable to have the game without me there for a little moment, or for a short time, but yeah, to literally have a black screen with no audio for like 2 minutes is not great. Anyway. Oh, cheers everyone. Just sheaf stout, nothing very special. I don't know if I actually checked my inventory, either consciously or subconsciously. You know, this sort of behavior is not acceptable. Imagine being... See, now there is courtesy, and then there is... Well, to me, you can be courteous, yet lacking in confidence simultaneously. Which is to say, you know, you can be concerned about your ability to survive in the quest, but you can also have a moment of fucking lucidity and realization and go, oh, that's actually quite unfair to take more than what I've been allocated, so I'll just take 1 stack, or maybe I'll just watch and take 2 stacks. I mean, they both just emptied the fucking box. But perhaps, you know, the concept of decency is null and void when you've got a hunter rank 999. You know, these people are expected to look after themselves, and I am that person at this time. And, you know, I don't need those potions. But again, to me, it's just discourteous to do that. Anyway. They would be first aid med plus, yes. That is assuming this is G rank, which I think it would be. Yes, it is G rank. So, yeah. I actually don't know if this is the event quest or not. I don't remember if Polar Peril is the standard quest name. I just don't remember. I'm encountering this issue again where I'm accidentally moving my right analog stick when I don't intend to, because it's like my thumb knows where it needs to go, but when it goes and presses those buttons that it needs to press, it actually bumps the right analog stick. So I need to train my hand to do the right thing. Okay. Giving this monster a bit of a facial at the moment. In a big way, actually. All 3 of us crowding around this monster's face. And yes, I did use the word facial with the full understanding of its connotations. Try to advance forward through that, just to be efficient. Get 2 things done at the same time, block the roar, and also get closer. Now, it is worth mentioning that if you're going to use a counter, you have to be certain that you're only blocking 1 thing. A counter cannot successfully block 2 things, because as soon as, you know, a counter takes place, that's it. You're attacking and you're no longer safe. What does that mean? It means that if there is a tremor, and an attack associated with the tremor, you have to not be blocking the tremor and then getting hit by the attack causing the tremor, if that makes sense. So you would imagine that the attack would come before the tremor, logically speaking, but it's not how it works, because I've had it happen many times, where you do a counter. Actually, no, it's usually the other way around. Yeah, that's true. So you do block the attack, but then the tremor still affects you, which is bad because you're generally stuck in one place. And also there was no point countering at that stage. You may as well have just had your guard up normally, and then dropped your guard and proceeded to attack. It is usually for the benefit of or rather DPS, that you use a counter in the first place. But the scenario that I just described is obviously not going to assist you with your DPS. It's going to do rather the opposite. And that was actually a very well timed knockdown there. Sadly, I was doing something else. And when I say doing something else, I mean not completely taking advantage of the knockdown when it happened. There we go. Tempted to shield assault and hope that I can get to the face. You never know, maybe the damage was dealt. It's possible. Certainly possible. Corkscrew jab in the face? That's my fault. I was being overzealous and also partially stupid, because I forgot that the lowering down of the face counts as an attack, and that just hit me out of my corkscrew jab. I got no damage out of that, and I only have myself to blame. And that's fine. That's the way I like it. I don't like to have room to blame the game for anything. I want to be able to comfortably blame myself. Because I know that that's an attack. It's just in that moment I didn't realize that that was the case. Well, Peaberry has confirmed that this is not the event quest, and I'm pleased to read that. That's some good news. As for why I'm keeping with blue sharpness right now, that is because my maximum sharpness is white sharpness. My general rule is that in G rank, if I start at purple sharpness, I will sharpen up when I drop down to blue. If I start with white sharpness, I will sharpen up when I drop down to green. And quite appropriately, I'm now about to sharpen up, after having dropped to green. That's a fucking big drop-off. I'm not used to having a drop-off that large in this area. I'm used to the portable third version of this area, and also the Freedom Unite arena for this monster, which I can't remember the name of right now. I think it's Polar Field in that game. Oh, that wasn't good. This is... No, dive. Ugh, fuck me. Why am I putting myself in such a compromising position? It's just... laziness, I guess. Happy to have that on the tail. I can't really remember the Blade Master tail hit zones. I seem to recall that a Cantor has a good shot zone on the tail, so I would assume that... excuse me. I would assume, therefore, that Ukanlos is much the same. Well, it isn't really guaranteed, it's just that they are very similar monsters, so you would imagine the hit zones would be the same too. I have another corkscrew jab, I just need to not mess it up. That's my opportunity. Just have to close the distance. I'm actually going to position myself here for... Oh, God. Yeah, the positioning was fine. But it was really my luck that the monster didn't shift positions again by the time my corkscrew jab came out. You can see very clearly that I'm playing just lazily and pathetically and with little care. Just because I have reached that point. Well, it's my fault for dithering. It took me so long to get that Farcaster out. God, I just need to wake up. Not my finest hour, folks. And Arexian, in response to your greeting, I can tell you, beyond peradventure, that this is a fucking pathetic way to start the recording, and that I'm not having a good starting hunt. So, yeah, I will unreservedly condemn my pathetic player. Because just at every turn I've been making bad decisions and getting hit almost immediately after making the decision in question, which usually involves closing the distance, attacking the monster, and then go, oh, well, that was bad positioning. Or at least mentally thinking that. So, you know what? Well, managed to get a knockdown on that last hit before being flinched. That's quite funny. He couldn't jump as far as he intended to because he jumped into a wall. But yeah, it's a very mobile version of Ukanlos compared with the 2nd gen and early 3rd gen version. It's just funny to me because if I hadn't chosen to Farcast at that time, previously, I would have just been able to outrun him. I was actually trying to take the more careful option. What with fucking instant transmission Ukanlos now? He's gone to Super Saiyajin 2 or whatever. That is assuming that he has the ability to go Super Saiyajin anyway. I will sharpen up, because I'm in the mood to do so. Feels like a good opportunity anyway. Yeah, just the way that he can jump forwards, do a 180-degree turn, and then launch gigantic rocks at you from multiple directions, or that are travelling in multiple directions, makes him a pretty dangerous monster if you're not aware of how he fights. Obviously, if you learn how he works, it's not hard, but... yeah, he's just a... he can be a chump. Why am I... yeah. I need to wake up and shape up, to be honest, because... you know, if I could put a time frame on how long ago I learnt not to dive when Ukanlos is doing that attack, we're looking at about 12 years, at least. So, what the fuck am I doing? It's just, yeah, I'm not in good form today, and I can live with that. It's fine. But like I said, I wanted to record rather than not today. So, have some entertainment while you watch. Oh, here we go. Is that a... oh, that looked like a shadow being cast by something falling on me, but apparently it didn't make contact. Very well. Let's actually get a corkscrew jab out. I'm not shy. That was right in that monster's anus. I had my head and simultaneously my camera inserted into the rectum of that monster as I aggressively pummeled it with my corkscrew phallus, which therefore means I'm a duck of some description. If you don't get what I mean when I say that, then don't worry about it. We are actually at risk of failure now because we are one death away from said failure, which is pretty unreasonable. It's just a standard Ukanlos. What are you doing? Oh, he's doing that attack. This is the one. See that? That's a lot of movement for a monster of that size, especially one that seems to be made of stone. I believe he's made of stone. Maybe he's not. Stone-like scales? We could say he has stone-like scales. He's not made of ice. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's not frozen water, so he may be living among frozen water, but he's definitely a fairly solid creature, so I'd say he's sort of made of stone. Of course, one shouldn't assume that because his rare drop is Ukanlos stone that he's made of stone. It could be a fucking kidney stone, who knows? Maybe he was in the process of passing it, and then you carved it out of him. Which doesn't really do him any favours because he's already dead, so... I hope you don't mind if I take this stone. I understand that you're not doing anything with it anymore because you have departed this world. Ugh. Hey Vernon, long time no see indeed. I saw your comment on... What the fuck is he doing? Oh, he's pinned, isn't it? Or is he being mounted? He's being mounted, that's what's going on. All of those animations were so unfamiliar to me in that moment, I don't know why. Because I obviously fought Ukanlos in 4 Ultimate, so I really don't have an explanation as to why that confused me as much as it did. Yeah, I saw your comment on a VOD, Vernon. I see that you are back again. I hope all has been well with you. We've all been wondering where you've been, actually. Because, you know, you haven't always been in the best of circumstances. So we just hoped that extraordinarily negative circumstances hadn't visited you in recent months. And I guess years at this stage. Unfortunately, you are tuning in while my throat doesn't sound all that good, so if I sound weird, that's the reason why. And of course, you know, beer helps a lot, right? Of course it does, yeah. Nice work, says fucked, no. Thanks, fucked, no. It's a lot of effort to pronounce the T in fucked, no? Maybe it's a silent T. This is possible. Fana. Fana is a pretty name, actually, for a girl. Fana. That's not to suggest that I've heard of it before, but if... Yeah. If you were to name someone Fana, that would be nice. And this is the point, you know. That's the distinction. A nice name versus a not-so-nice name. Fana? Nice. Fucked no. It's like you're swearing at me, or at least being unfriendly. Oh. Happy to hear that, Vernon. Yeah, I'm reminded now of the fact that you were having heart problems. And absolutely, you know, physical health is going to be an important step to getting yourself back on track with that. Because not only do you have the existence of the problem, the fact that, you know, your heart's not the best, the anxiety associated with that is going to do a lot of damage to you. To your mental health, not just physical health. So, yeah, it's great that you're taking positive steps going forward, and yeah. The results will speak for themselves, let me tell you. I'm sure they already are, but yeah. No, it's perfectly acceptable that you had to take some time away and get yourself back on track. Farktanai is saying, I need some rabbit materials, which obviously refers to Lagombi. I don't mind. Uh-oh. The host has changed to a feline.
What's a feline?
Sorry. A prowler. Yeah, people just say prowler or palico. I just don't like the word palico, okay? There's nothing wrong with feline. And to be completely honest with you, I've got nothing against the word prowler, because it makes sense that the class or the type of... I don't want to call it a weapon type, because it's not a weapon type. I guess, for argument's sake, you could call it that, but my point is that that's fine, to have a distinctive term to refer to that. Prowler. Sounds fair to me. Why do we have the word palico? To me, it's just... it's silly. It's very silly. Anyway, I guess cheesy is the word. There's nothing wrong with feline. That's what it always was. Alright. So, I don't know if I'm willing to do this, because the guy's hub name, or objective at least, no, hub name, is Ukanlos. Fortunately for him, perhaps, the objective is any, but he has written Ukanlos in there, so... He's gonna put Lagombi on the board, which is surely going to catch some people off guard. But, I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, just in the spirit of the release of Tears of the Kingdom, I thought I should show you all what Link really looks like. Not that guy who's in the Zelda reboot. I mean like the actual real Link that existed for fucking 35 years. With an unchanged design. Anyway. You can get the set in the game, Doomlink. What are you complaining about? I don't even need to tell you what I'm complaining about. To start with, he's got stupid little shorts in that game that makes him look like a real dork. He looks like a doofus. He looks like he's going on a Boy Scout mission. Ugh, anyway. Hello, zombie. Oh, I see. This is, in fact, zombie. Yeah. Vernon's coming online too, so... Yeah. If you want to play Vernon, let me know, because I did see that you just came online. I'm actually happy to regroup, let me know. If you do want to play, I'll close this room. Well, not close it, I'll leave the room, create a new one, and then Zombie and you can play with me, and we can get a random fourth person. I'm happy to do that. You're going to play? Excellent. Yeah, not to burst this guy's bubble, but I'd rather do that than hunt a Lagombi with a random, so... That's the situation. I'm going to give it a silly name, something like, I don't know. What's a silly name? Ugh. I can't think of anything clever, so we'll just call it The Big Hond. In all caps. And there will be someone going, what? What's the Big Hond? I want to check it out. And the objective is going to be extraction, but the quest type is going to be I don't know, let's say hunting slaying, because, you know, there's a what's the word? I can't think of the word. The point is that they refer to two opposite things. Sorry, mental blank. For 2 or 3 hunts? Yeah, fair enough. Again, it's low. The stakes are low. We're just hunting for fun, so feel free to get back into it at whatever pace suits you. Pfizer, this is just a little bit of advice that I give to people on the internet. If you've got a question, it's generally better to ask it immediately rather than to give notice of your intention to ask a question. And the reason why is because I have no good reason to say, actually no, I would rather you didn't ask a question, when in fact I have no knowledge of the question that you're going to ask. You know, of course you can ask a question. Generally what you do is you just ask it, and then you're gonna know whether or not I want to give you a response based on whether or not I give you a response. Now, maybe it's a little more acceptable to do that in a live stream scenario, but when people if people send me private messages, or even, you know, in a chat scenario where I'm participating in the chat and they say to me, can I ask a question? I'm just sitting there going, well, you've wasted precious time asking if you could ask the question, so just ask it, man. Unless it's some sort of, you know, disquisition that's going to take me half an hour to read. Anyway. I do have a Death Grip build. Vernon, who's just joined the room, has a Death Grip build. And, His is probably a little bit more specific to the weapon. He uses it for mounting and paralyzing, and he has been soft banned from using it in my presence, as he will know. But this is pretty much it. It's general use as well. It's pretty much a status set. But you see, Sword and Shield is fine with general use armor skills. So, this uses Hayabusa Feather. Not really an easily accessible piece of armor for most people. Especially not in the early game. Or even just as you reach G rank, it's something that requires time to make. So, yeah, it is what it is. Use this as a guide. If you want to know what's important for Sword and Shield, in my opinion, it's sharpness. And also, you know, increased critical damage as well. Like, you can see what this set is. It's status crit with high affinity, good sharpness, and obviously increased status attack for the weapon. So, I'm also using it for longsword and, I guess, switch axe, but yeah, I'm happy to use this with death grip as well. Zombie, you might want to join in here before you lose your spot. You're not actually going to lose your spot, but... yeah, I don't know why I said that you would lose your spot. Obviously, I'm going to hold it open for you. Let's see what we're going to hunt. I'm just going to choose something random. Something fun. I'm actually not in the mood for hyper right now. How about we do a single Seregios? Just to ease ourselves in. In fact, I'll use this. Oh, Vernon has equipped his... Oh, sorry, Zombie has equipped his set. That's extremely interesting. Zombie has a Sword and Shield set that's very similar to my old Sword and Shield set. But you see, there's nothing about that that's specific to Death Grip necessarily. He's just equipped Death Grip to a general use armor set. Like, you could use that armor set with any weapon in the game, practically. It's sort of a, like I say, general use damage dealing armor set. So... it's probably a 5th gen thing, P-Berry. But anyway, this set that I'm using now is obviously my old... well, not obviously. I will inform you of this. It's my old joke weapon roulette set. Entirely general use. But, I really wanted to make a Link loadout with the Master Sword G, and this is what I decided to slap the transmog onto. And it works fine. Because this set is designed to just deal lots of damage and also be resistant to raws. So, yeah. Excuse me. I hope almost none of that was audible because that was unseemly. What is this? What is that? Oh, it's Crystalbeard Uragan Gunlance. I don't think I've ever seen that. What the fuck? Pretty cool. What's the... well, I can only see that it's a raw weapon and has 417 starting attack, which is very impressive. Of course, that's not the whole story. I don't know what the sharpness on that weapon is like. But I can see that there is, well, no sharpness skills necessarily. Which is ill-advised on a gunlance almost in any scenario, but I'm imagining that the Crystalbeard Uragan, or an Uragan anything, really is in need of some kind of sharpness skills. This outfit reminds you of Twilight Princess? Well, I guess graphically, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Alright, we are hunting, what, Seregios? Where the hell does he start? Oh, I don't know where he starts, of course. So Regios is your favorite monster. Fair enough. Or at least one can assume one of your favorite monsters. I don't like fighting him. I find that he's all over the place all the time. And you just can't relax with him. He puts me on edge, at least. I do not often use Sword and Shield against him. But it's a sensible option, to be honest, because Sword and Shield is high mobility and he's a fast monster, so... It's actually an acceptable pairing. Yeah, thank you for that. It's not the end of the world. Technically, he's probably doing more damage than I am. I should have chosen Hyper just on the basis of there being 4 hunters, because obviously when you've got a non-Hyper monster with 4 people who are G-rank level, that monster is going to die very easily. It's not going to be that enjoyable when the monster is dead in 3 minutes. Is that going to be what happens during this hunt? Most likely, but you never know, maybe not. We will find out. At the moment, this monster won't get the fuck out of the air, so... Which is typical, of course, but... doesn't mean it's not affecting the hunt. It's certainly affecting my DPS. If I'm... well, actually, that's the reason why... okay, so let me actually get the whole thought out, because most of that was in my mind. That's why you're confused, if you're hanging on my every word. The reason why this still has generic Hunter Arts, this particular set, is because it was obviously originally used as my Joke Weapon Roulette set, which is a set that is used with pretty much all Blade Master weapon types in the game. The reason why I have kept these Hunter Arts is in case I want to return to that series, but quite frankly, it's more effort to change the transmog than it is to change the Hunter Arts, so I really should just change to Sword and Shield Hunter Arts and stop being such a moron. And the reason why I am a moron is precisely what I just expressed, which is that, you know, between changing the Hunter Arts and changing a whole transmog for an armor set, I think I can guess which one is going to be the more time consuming. There's a lot in it. Big difference. I don't always know what Seregios is doing when he jumps in the air, but you had best be ready to avoid something or shield something before you know. Before you've ascertained for certain that you are, in fact, safe. Because he's aggressive. And when he's in the air, it usually means trouble. I hope I've hydrated enough today. I've got a headache at the moment. I've had a headache for the last 15-20 minutes. After this recording, I'll probably hydrate a great deal, just in case. I don't know. Usually I'm pretty good with hydrating, but yeah. It's also because I'm partially unwell, but when I think on it, maybe I haven't had enough to drink today. Don't know. Which obviously doesn't help when you're consuming alcohol, but tough shit. As I said, I don't regret recording. I'm not 100% right now, but better that than literally nothing for a week. Done too much of that recently. What are you doing? Like, literally, what are you doing? You were just all over the place doing a whole lot of nothing. But you did eventually hit me, despite all that. So, I suppose some form of congratulations is in order, but doesn't mean that I'm any less frustrated by your antics. Oh, here we go. Yep. And there we go. very quick hunt. Not a 3-minute hunt. Was that a substantial hunt? Not quite, but it wasn't as bad as a 3-minute hunt. Some people really get off on a 3-minute hunt. They want every hunt to be so fast. Now, when that's the crystallization of really, really good min-maxing and efficient gameplay, fine. But if that's the result of 4 really overpowered teammates beating on a non-hyper monster, it's shit and doesn't really add anything to the experience. It's like, okay, it's nice for the first few times that it happens, but when you're, you know, well over 1,000 hours into the game, it gets pretty asinine pretty quickly. That's why hyper monsters are so rewarding. I forgot that you were playing Rise, Vernon. Ugh. It's just so funny to me because that puts it into perspective. For those of you who struggle to have a clear perspective on the direction of the series, let me give you this to think on. What Vernon just said, having played a lot of Monster Hunter Rise, the fact that Wirebug has spoiled him when he comes back to Generations Ultimate. Let me tell you that in the early days of this game, but particularly when Double Cross was Japanese only, that game was well known in the community, and I guess Generations was also the same. Playing too much of that game would literally result in a worse hunter when they would go back and play the older games. Like, you almost would struggle to hunt effectively because you had become so reliant on the new system. But not just that, you had become reliant on... Because if you think about it, the skeleton of Monster Hunter isn't gone. It's not completely been done away with in 5th gen, but the idea that you can't go back to an older game and play it efficiently because you've become so used to the new game, it's just progressively been that. And it's funny to me because, you know, the game that we're playing now used to make you shit at Monster Hunter. But now, Vernon's coming back to the game that makes you shit at Monster Hunter, and he's like, oh god, I've been spoiled. Which, for me, personally, not having taken the time to be spoiled, blows my fucking mind. It's crazy to me. That's not to put him down, that's not to put Rise players down. Actually, it is to put Rise players down. What are you people doing? But, aside from that, yeah, it's an interesting perspective for me. And I don't know if I was able to express that enough for you to really get in my head when it comes to that. But, you know, when you understood the reputation that this game had before I had played it and before most people had played it, the reputation, rightly, was that it made you shit at Monster Hunter. And now he's shit at this game. Well, I don't think he's shit at the game, but he's not as good at this game because he plays Rise, so yeah, I don't think that's a good thing. But perhaps the series has always gone in that sort of direction. My point is that I wouldn't chalk it up to the fact that things have changed. I would chalk it up to the fact that the way you play the game is more simplified in certain ways. Or the hunter has become too powerful in recent games. That's what I would say. Hello and welcome back to the... Well, not really welcome back. You're still watching this recording, but this is what you would call part 2 of this recording. Now, the reason why I'm doing a second recording for one part of Doomlink's Live Hunts is because during that previous, let's say part 1 of this live stream, I was sort of unwell, but not so unwell that I couldn't record, but as I was recording, I sort of deteriorated. I haven't actually decided on a point where I'm going to cut that and begin this. I'll just have to find out when I go and watch that back. But for the moment, we are continuing with what we were doing in that recording, which is playing Generations Ultimate. That much I can... Well, I can be assured of the fact that it's not really going to interrupt much, because it's just random hunting. There's no real need for continuity. Although I suppose, no, actually in this case, in that previous recording, that previous half, I was playing with Vernon for the first time in a long time, and also with Zombie, so yeah, that's not going to continue because this is several days later. But anyway, that's so funny because usually there wouldn't be any concerns about continuity, but on that particular day I was hunting with viewers, so oh well, tough luck. This person has a very long name. I don't know how long that would take to read that name. In Chinese terms, that could almost be a fucking poem of its own. It depends on how much there is actually to read, I don't know. Maybe I'm entirely wrong, but yeah, I don't know much about that language anymore. Mandarin, specifically, is what I'm referring to. Thanks, Doomlink. Yes, I now have my chat up and ready, and we're going to find out what these people are doing, because at this stage, no one has posted, and I don't believe that there is a specific objective. It is just a turns room. Hello has joined the room, which is actually quite convenient because that means this person never has to greet anyone. That much is already done by default in the name section. But anyway. P2 turn. I see. So Aaron, quite graciously, is giving the Hunterang 999 a turn. That's the sensible thing to do until one is told otherwise. Because it is a turns room. Hello, P-Berry. As far as my voice is concerned, it may not yet sound 100%, but it's most of the way there. So, yeah, you're not going to see a deteriorating Doomlink, you're not going to see Doomlink on the edge of being considerably sick. It's just going to be Doomlink at, let's say, 96%. Whatever I want to say. Let's just say 96%. My meaning is clear. It seems that player 2 has retreated to the prep area, and is at this stage unresponsive, which doesn't really help. But whatever. You see, things like this tend to breed uncertainty. In any community, but especially this one. When a person has retreated out of sight and is uncommunicative. Whatever. So we'll just sit back, relax, and be patient. Of course, when I speak of patience, you have to understand that that doesn't always apply to me, because I'm in a rather different situation to these people. These people are just playing the game in their own time. Me, I'm not going to say that I'm putting pressure on myself to provide entertainment, but there's an element of wanting to reduce downtime, increase the amount of time that I'm spending hunting. Therefore, I am not quite so inclined to be patient while I'm live. So, if there are ever any concerns that I'm somehow hypocritical or not, you know, if there's a difference between what I say people should be doing and what I'm actually doing, it's because, in my case, I have a good reason to want to depart quickly. But even having said that, it's not like I'm sitting here being extremely impatient. That is, however, to suggest that if I'm sitting here for 2 or 3 minutes, I am personally going to start getting antsy, because it's not very entertaining, is it? It is Doomlink's live hunts, not Doomlink's waits. I don't know. An alternative spelling of that could mean I'm working out on camera. Aaron has just skipped player 2 and has now offered me a turn, and I'm going to say skip. This is an incredibly uneventful room. So this person named Hello may choose if he so desires. And if he doesn't want to, then that's going to be exceptionally funny. Looks like Hello is quite happy to post. Hello, Yamatori. So yeah, for those watching the Twitch live stream, and you are wondering why there has been no change to the part number from the last one, that is not an oversight, that is because I'm recording effectively part 2 of that VOD, of that live stream. And as I said, at this stage I don't know when I'm going to, splice myself in for part 2, because I don't really know at what point I became unacceptably unwell while recording. Probably sometime around the point where I sounded like I had a peg on my nose. So, yeah, ideally... What is Aaron doing? Oh, I see. He found it so disagreeable that Hello had posted an EX monster after all this waiting that he just, he gave up. To be completely honest, I don't blame him. I don't really want to do EX monsters either. I'm going to assume that player 2 is going to return at some point, so I'm not just going to abandon the room because that previous host did. I really don't care. What should I bring? I might bring a bow. What's the weakness again? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Just join the room. Now, you know when I go around giving people grief for naming themselves Hunter in Monster Hunter? I have to say that that's considerably better than A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Considerably better, because at least at that point, it feels like a name you've given a character. It's generic, it's uninspired, uncreative, etc., but it's workable, it's acceptable. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is neither funny nor acceptable, but I suppose it's none of my business, it's not my character. Where is Crystalbeard? Crystalbeard. I don't know what he's fucking weak to, I've got no idea. Alright, I'll bring a raw weapon. Hello has left the room. I mean, you people... Hello left the room because I guess I was too slow getting ready. And you guys saw how long I was taking. All of a minute and a half, and the guy's like, I'm out of here. This room is... Who knows? Not fast-paced enough, I suppose. I don't really care. I don't really care. Yeah, the highs and lows of hunting. You think you've reached the trough, and then it just keeps... You just keep going into freefall, and it's lower and lower and lower. That's... Anyway. Sheng X doing something. No, that's the standard message in the Chinese language that is posted, so... It means recruiting hunters or something along those lines. Or just wait for it to poop. Okay. Well, this weapon that I'm using here is acceptable, but I don't really want to use it, so I will change to a different ice weapon. Hello has joined this room. I mean, it's quite cute, isn't it, when you leave that room and then we end up in the same room when presumably the reason why you had left the previous room was because I was too... This is extraordinary. Literally all we have done is we've played musical chairs and gotten rid of a guy who was AFK who probably would have come back anyway. Like, what are you people doing? It's incredible. I mean, this is the stupidity. It's the, the grass will be greener on the other side, and then they get to the other side and it's a fucking wasteland, Unbelievable. We all just ended up in the same place. Minus the guy who, like I said, probably was only going to be AFK for a short while longer. We had already been there for a while, waiting for the guy. I mean, fuck me. Anyway. I mean, you can all see it. You can all appreciate it for what it is. You don't need my commentary on the matter. It's self-explanatory. These people are fucking idiots. Alright, let's go. I mean, everyone left for a different reason. Aaron left because he didn't want to do an EX hunt. Hello left because, I don't know, I was too slow getting ready for the hunt. Or he was offended by the guy with the ABCDEFG name, which is almost acceptable. And I left because everyone's leaving. So, well, what's the point in me sticking around? I'll try a different room, fresh start. And then we all just end up in the same room together with some other guy. So, I mean, why did that process have to begin in the first place? I don't know. All I can tell you is that this community is full of a bunch of mouth breathers. Just people who, if a unique and clever thought came to their mind, they wouldn't know what the fuck to do with it. Anyway. I've gone with raw. I don't know why. I haven't used this loadout for a while, so why not? I'm not obliged to always use elemental loadouts, for fairly obvious reasons. In fact, you probably wouldn't want to do that. It gets a little boring after a while. Yeah. Well, no, this guy's name was ABCDEFG, so... that's actually a strange point. I just thought about that. He didn't even reach the character limit. Why didn't he just keep going through the alphabet until he reached the character limit? Why did he stop at G? Fucking mystery. Maybe it is a legitimate name. Maybe that is an indication of, you know, independent thought. He decided, well, no, I'm not going to go beyond G because that's just excessive. For stylistic or aesthetic reasons, he's going to stop at G. Okay. So it's a fairly deliberate name at that point. Congratulations to him. Anyway. Yes. People are always in a hurry in this community. Well, this is the point. Sometimes, like, there's an acceptable length of time to wait, and then there is an unacceptable length of time to have to wait. I would say that an acceptable time frame is, you know, 3 to 4 minutes. Once you start getting around 5 minutes, it's, you know, you start keeping people waiting, and it's not good. You try to avoid holding people up for that long. And 6, 7, 8 minutes, that's no longer acceptable, and then it's literally, you know, kicking you from the room or leaving the room, one of those two. In this community, it's totally different. You know, it starts getting completely unacceptable around the 2 to 3 minute mark, and I mean completely unacceptable. And what that suggests to me is that they have to like grit their teeth and do their best to tolerate it at about the 1 minute mark. That's your indication. If 2 to 3 minutes is unacceptable, like I'm leaving the room sort of territory, what does that mean after a minute? It's like, what's going on? It's taking so long. I mean, these people need to get a grip. Well, they don't need to, I suppose. It's a self-sustaining organism at this point. Everyone is as impatient as the other person, and yeah, it's now just it's a functioning society of very impatient people at this stage, so I am one of the, shall we say, exceptions to the rule. I would like to use Corkscrew Jam, but I just need to wait for the right opportunity. This trap coming up may be one such opportunity. Oh, this is also an opportunity. What's this gonna hit? It hit something by the looks of it. I fucking hope it did. It appeared that way. Next I need to find a chance to do Enraged Guard, which of course is a counter-attack. I certainly don't want to squander it, because it's a good damage boost. It's a passive damage boost. I would have liked for it to be active during this particular trap. Oh, for fuck's sake, I need to, well, I was about to say I need to reposition, but that was not necessary. Let's just keep in mind how quick that hunt was, despite the fact that it's a fucking hyper monster. Unless this is high rank, which is technically possible. That's a very good hunt. It's... what? Oh, yeah, it is. I don't know what I'm doing. I was expecting to see HR 13, I think, but no. That's an HR 9 hyper Najarali. Very good. Nicely executed, I would say. Well, you see, I actually discussed this before, Sabertail. And you're only partially correct about that, P-Berry. It's a chicken or the egg scenario. Sabertail mentions, it may have to do with me being more patient than the average Monster Hunter player, but I feel like the games were intended to be a social experience and not just a grind. Well, this is the point. The reason why the multiplayer interaction changed in 5th generation is not because Capcom decided to lead players in a particular direction. Rather, it's a change of how people play video games. It's a change in how they are entertained or seek to be entertained. This social interaction that we're seeing here is no longer what gamers want. And to be honest, I genuinely think that that includes people who would typically play a game like Monster Hunter. Not just, you know, that change is not just, and by change I mean things like the SOS system from 5th gen, which has a different name in Rise that I now forget, but you know what I mean when I say that if you played World. Things like that where it's just instant gratification, instant, getting into a hunt with the monster that you intend to fight. You don't need to interact with people, you don't need to negotiate, you don't need to do any of that. It's just it's immediate results for people who want immediate entertainment. And, that is something that, from my perspective, had to happen. Not just because Capcom wanted to make the games more accessible to general gamers, but because I think that's just what the younger generations of gamers need and expect. So, when you get into this stage in Generations Ultimate's lifespan, it's now 2023. The fact that everyone is playing like this is, in my opinion, not because they come from Rise, as P-Berry suggests. I actually think it's because that's how people play games now. When they come into a system like this, it's so different to their needs that they can't really cope. They actually can't cope with a system like this. And, hand on heart, I'm starting to see a bit of that in 3 Ultimate too. Like, there is more impatience in 3 Ultimate than ever before. Now, it's nothing like this game, because there is naturally going to be a different community of people playing 3 Ultimate. There is a barrier to entry there, which doesn't exist when it comes to this console. To start with, this is the latest Nintendo console. If you're playing Nintendo games, you're going to own a Nintendo Switch. A Wii U? Who owns a Wii U? So that, specifically, is going to create a different group of people playing the game to this. So that's why there is a difference. But even though there are technically more patient people, or perhaps we could phrase it, less impatient people in 3 Ultimate than Generations Ultimate, there is still that trend. There is that progressive change from people being content to just sit back, organize themselves for hunts, chat, whether it be strategically or just, for the sake of conversation and social interaction. There's less of that, because it's not about that anymore. It's about that instant gratification. And the nature of instant gratification is that, well, not the nature of it, but one thing to keep in mind is that the world that we live in is literally changing to not only it's not only benefiting people who want instant gratification, it fosters more of that. It creates it. It actually generates this sort of person, if that makes sense. But it's also a change generationally with people. What I'm trying to say is that this is an outdated system of multiplayer. It's an outdated system. Some may even argue that it was outdated in 4th gen, which is an argument that could be made. So, yeah. What the fuck are we doing? I can't even remember what was put on the board, so I will go with Raw again. How about Blunt Gun Lance? That's a good idea. Oh, it was Baroth. That just reminded me of it. That's fine. I'm happy to use a Baroth Gun Lance against a Baroth, because this is just dealing raw damage. See what I mean?
Player 2?
I'm going to tell him to shut up. Again, case in point. What is the acceptable length of time to wait? That was about 2 minutes, and the guy's like,
Where is he? Are you coming? Hello?
Literally hello in the case of this guy. Like, just shut the fuck up. Don't ask where I am. Asserting your displeasure at the fact that you've had to sit there for 120 seconds while you wait. You know what I used to do in those days? When I used to actually have to wait for fucking 6 minutes or whatever for someone to get ready for a quest because they were quite reasonably organizing themselves. I used to, I don't know, read a book. No, you wouldn't really do that anymore. But the point is, do something else. I mean, you're playing a video game. You probably have a computer, right? Do something on your computer. Like, how one-dimensional are these people? Why am I climbing a tree? Anyway, like, it's just extraordinary. Yeah, exactly. So that's the point, Subatail. Like, the changing of the generations is literally creating what we're seeing. It's creating the change in how Capcom makes a multiplayer game. It's creating the change in how people playing Monster Hunter are interacting with the old multiplayer system. Just looks like a bunch of impatient children basically screaming at each other to get ready immediately, and if they don't get ready immediately, they'll just move on to the next thing. And you know, what promotes that? It's things like infinite scrolling on social media. That's what it is. It's just, you know, you get what you need immediately. That people are literally being cultivated to behave in that sort of way. And because I'm perhaps a slightly more antiquated person, because what I'm talking about can be seen in people, you know, who are in their 30s and even in their 40s, you know, they get into that similar thing. It's quite sad, but, you know, I'm not that sort of progressive person. I see value in the way the world was, and I'm quite comfortable with that. And, you know, that's why I play these older video games, for example. You know, I know the Monster Hunter series is a very good series, and so I commit myself to that series, and I continue to play the old games, and the new ones don't do it for me because it's not designed for me. It's not designed for people like me, and for people who value what I value. So, yeah, eventually you become a bit disconnected from the way the world is, and I don't really want to turn this into a wider philosophical argument because, you know, I'm playing Monster Hunter and that's really the focus, but it's a wider issue than just Monster Hunter, and that's why I see it in every single Monster Hunter game that I play now, you know, similar sort of impatience, similar unwillingness to wait. It may seem illogical, but they don't mean to be impatient themselves. I'm going to apologise to him for hitting him away. Do I have a sorry somewhere? Sorry about that. Yeah, there you go. That took so long that he probably forgot that it happened by the time I apologised for it. But yeah, I did shell him away from the monster. But yeah, the point is that there's no escaping it. It doesn't mean I'm going to tolerate it. I mean, I suppose I do tolerate it because I do play with these people, but the point that I'm trying to make is that I can't blame them for it. Not anymore. Not that I've thought about it and realised that it's actually inevitable. Like, it's an inevitability of life that a change like that is going to happen. And I'm sure, you know, that sort of thing has always happened. It's worse now, I feel, because, you know, society has been introduced to something totally different to anything that's ever existed, and that is the interconnected World Wide Web via social media. You know, that has done something incredible to human society and how we interact with each other. It's something that is entirely unprecedented and is causing change, I think, not just at an unprecedented rate, but in an unprecedented fashion. And so these are the effects of it. And I have to say, it's not just social media, of course not. There are so many things associated with that. Let's call it the streamlining of life itself. It's not just video games, it's not even just social media, it's the streamlining of everything. Eventually you reach a point where everything has become... It's gone past the point where things are improving and they are instead just becoming worse, but on the face of it, it seems like there is progress. I think there's a wider discussion to be had about that. At what point does progress actually start to detract more than it benefits people? Like, does it detract from what once was to the point where whatever benefits it introduces are actually negligible, and in fact you start going backwards? You know, that's a wider discussion, and I have neither the vocabulary nor the inclination to describe it or get into it deeply, because there are philosophers who do that, and I'm not a fucking philosopher. All I can say is that I can see that sort of thing having an effect in my life. I just don't have the ability to articulate it because it's not my area of interest. Just because I'm aware of it doesn't mean it's my area of interest. So I'll leave that to the people who can better describe it than me to describe it. But, yeah. I'm sort of reaching that point where I don't care anymore. I mean, I'll get upset and rage about it when I see it, but I'm not sitting here wondering why. I know why. I know why people do this. I know why this behavior is what it is. You just have to learn to live with it, I guess. And then, I don't know, reminisce with a heavy heart about days that will never be again. And wish that you could relive the time when Tri was new and all of that. I'm sure for other people, reminisce about the days when they could play PlayStation 2 Monster Hunter on the original consoles with the original servers and interact with that community, which I understand to have been a very good community as well, but I didn't personally engage with that, so yeah. I do miss those days, but they will never come again, so there's no point expecting them to come again or blame the community for changing, because it is actually unavoidable. Yeah, there might be other reasons for two people departing on a quest instead of including other people, and that's because you do sometimes get groups of people who maybe they're playing as two, maybe they're communicating outside of the game, and they don't seem to realize that they've created a room for 4 people, and then they're just departing without these others who have joined the room. You see, because you have actually opened your room up to 4 people maximum, you have a responsibility to the community to actually be inclusive of the people who join. Even if you're hunting as a pair and you don't really care if others are there or not, or if others are involved or not, it negatively affects the community when you just depart without them. Now, I don't see much of that in this game, but I do see a lot of it in 3 Ultimate, and it may also exist in 4 Ultimate. I haven't touched the 4 Ultimate community on 3DS in a long time. I don't know how they are now, but they may be like that too. The point is that some people just play online when they really shouldn't, because in my opinion, if you're going to take the time to play with an online community only to do that, only to just depart with 2 people and not allow others to participate, just play offline and stop negatively impacting their experience when they come online. It needs to be inclusive. Obviously, if you want to play with just 2 people online, when I say play offline, what I mean, that's confusing. Obviously, if you're playing with 2 people, you can't play offline. My point is that you make the room 2 players maximum, so that you're not negatively affecting other people's experience. So, yeah, that's more of a public service announcement for 3 Ultimate players than Generations Ultimate players, because I haven't actually run into that here, so... Yeah, Sabotail's point stands, absolutely. There's going to be a mix of both, P-Berry. The revival of Monster Hunter Tri's community, online community, will obviously involve some older people, but I think it will predominantly be new hunters. That's the way it looks to be. It's going to be very different, I think, to when Tri was running on the original servers. In much the same way, it's very different now, I'm sure, with Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter G and its online servers compared to when that was running on its original servers, community-wise. Very different. So, yeah, Tri will be the same. There will be a little bit of old experience and old knowledge that will obviously come through in that community, but whether or not it will actually have an effect on how people interact with each other and the general state of the community, I don't think it will have a huge effect. It'll be noticeable, but what I mean to say overall is that whatever the new Tri community is going to be, it will be totally different to how it was 10 to 12 years ago. Totally different. Yamatori-san is asking me about Monster Hunter DOS. He has a vested interest in DOS, he's been playing a lot of it, so I realize why he's asking. I'm enjoying DOS a lot. I think that there are positives and negatives to the quest system. It's a little bit... I don't think it's clean. I think that quest system is ambitious and interesting. I wouldn't have rejected it at the time if I had played DOS back then. I don't reject it now, but I think it's something that could have done with polishing rather than with, doing away with it entirely. It's not perfect. The quest system is weird, but like I say, it's ambitious, so I enjoy it for that reason. There's a villager request system that seems to change how urgent quests work a little bit. Look, I'm not going to go deeply into how DOS is and how it plays, but I'll just say that there are certain things that are entirely unique to DOS that you can't see in any other game. It's interesting, but I'm not enthralled by it, to be honest with you. It doesn't seem like DOS is fully realized. It feels like a first attempt at something new. What I see is a whole lot of potential for something to be very well done, and this is not that. There are a lot of aspects to DOS that I think, if polished, could have become, or it could have created a game that was so much better than Freedom Unite, which I think is the gold standard of second gen. Freedom Unite, I don't care what your position is the gold standard of second generation. Monster Hunter DOS is so different to all of that. Even Monster Hunter Freedom 2 is so different to Freedom Unite that I think that it has more in common with first generation than second generation. So if we're going to speak in terms of first and second generation, I would say Freedom Unite is the gold standard. And if DOS had been more polished, and if those ideas that were first presented in DOS were worked on further, I think something better than Freedom Unite, in fact considerably better than Freedom Unite, could have been made. But okay, I'll take the Palico. I don't care. I thought it was someone's guild card, but he's giving me a Palico. Fine, as long as it doesn't corrupt my save. Anyway, what am I doing? What's the monster again? It's fucking Najarala again.
Player 2? Player 2?
I'm gonna get that in the chat in a moment. Let's go Ice Sword and Shield. Icy Aksar, wherever it is.
Player 2?
But yeah, I haven't actually played all of DOS yet. I'm getting there. I have played it through many different incarnations. At the moment, I'm playing it, obviously, with the most recent version of Monster Hunter 2, that is, with the full English translation, and I have no reservations about admitting to you that I am using Monster Hunter 2 Plus. For the uninitiated, that means that I am not using analog stick controls. I installed that, or rather patched that in a few days ago, and I'm not going to get into why I've done that. I'll probably talk about that when I want to talk about DOS in greater detail, but I'm happily playing Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter G with analog stick controls. I'm comfortable with it, but do I prefer it? No. And if the option is there to not have that, I will take that option. That's a fact. I've played, obviously, with analog stick controls in DOS. I've played with the Yuzu translation. Yuzu is the person who did Monster Hunter 2 Plus, but also he did work on a English patch. And I've also played with, obviously, analog stick controls and the original English translation, which was a fucking disaster. That English translation, I mean, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but where this English translation that originally had been done, I think it was done around 2011, 2010. It was so bad that whoever did that English translation had neither played Monster Hunter before, nor taken the time to figure out what the established translated words for certain things were, like basic things like whetstones. I remember whetstones had a weird name. But that's the point. There was no desire to have it work alongside existing official translations. It was just done completely from scratch. And it sucked. Like, it was really bad. And, yeah. It was funny, but it certainly affected the immersion, so, yeah. Yeah, DOS is a different direction. What's so strange about DOS is the fucking shockwave plumes, whatever you want to call them. DOS went in a totally different direction. So Monster Hunter was getting progressively more difficult. It was originally designed not to be a video game experience, but rather an opportunity to live life as a hunter through a video game. What that means in detail, or specifically, is that things that would be considered good game design just were not present. So in other words, if you had an idea, let's say, and you looked at that idea and you thought, in concept, that's pretty cool, but that wouldn't work for a video game, that's silly, that's impractical. That was not a concern to Alpha Team working on Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter G. They went for it. They were like, well, yeah, as a video game mechanic, this is really fucking awkward, but we have this vision for a video game where you're sort of like a hunter-gatherer, you know, things like that. Concepts of practicality and quality of life didn't exist. Even though those things are important for video games, that wasn't important to Capcom. So that's how they did Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter G. Now, Monster Hunter 2 was an honest-to-goodness continuation of that vision. A vision of a Monster Hunter game where you have to provide for yourself, there is no quality of life, it is not at all convenient, you have to work for every little thing. For example, most of us would be familiar with the feline kitchen as literally being options that you select when eating, and you upgrade those options over time. That's how it was originally in Monster Hunter. That's how it continued to be in Monster Hunter Freedom 2, Freedom Unite, and for all games that continued in a linear forward direction. Monster Hunter 2 actually forced you to purchase your food items that you would use for the feline kitchen, and you had to keep stock of them. Let's say you're using, I don't know, meat and vegetable, like a particular ingredient, when you're eating at the feline kitchen. Well, that would literally be an item sitting in your box that you had to purchase and keep in your box, and which would be consumed when you would eat at the feline kitchen. And that's how your ingredients work for the feline kitchen in Monster Hunter 2. Now, that was a change from the original game. In the original game, it works the same as it does here. You just fucking eat, and it's infinite. You just pay for it, and that's it. But that's the point. Monster Hunter 2 is a continuation in a direction that, quite frankly, did not continue. That was it. Monster Hunter 2 was the last game to be designed with that vision in mind in Monster Hunter. It went in the opposite direction after that. It was just a very, very slow streamlining of Monster Hunter after that point. Now, streamlining is good. It is absolutely a good thing to streamline. But you do eventually go past a threshold of what's considered acceptable, and that was actually perfectly acceptable placement for that trap, but for some reason it still didn't activate, so whatever. I'm not attacking because I'm assuming that trap was placed so that we could capture. Oh no, apparently it wasn't, okay. Well, whatever. Yeah, you have to pay to sleep in your own bed, that's right. And, also, on that subject, can I just say that, who are they called again? I forget the name of the translation team right now that did the most recent full English translation. Can I just say that Yuzu had a better choice of words for, you know, sleeping in the bed. I think the current translation is something like long sleep, if you actually want to change the season. Yuzu had hibernate, which makes a whole lot more sense. Like, if you're going to sleep long enough for the fucking season to change, that's more like hibernation. And that may actually be a literal translation, but for some reason this team decided to go with long sleep, or something like that, something stupid. Yeah, that's something that you have to put up with when you've got different translation teams, but hibernate was definitely a better choice of words. But anyway. Yeah, the whole season changing, that's pretty cool. Like I said, Monster Hunter 2 in concept, I think people were a little eager to sing the praises of Monster Hunter 2 and how it was designed. It's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect game. There's a lot of things that are rough around the edges, not stylistically, but because Capcom was sort of wading through the murk, trying to work out how to get the balance right, and how to do this new thing in a way that was tasteful and sensible. It's not a finished product. There is room for improvement. It's a finished product insofar as it's a video game that is complete and can be played and enjoyed, but, you know, there is a lot of room for improvement, and, you know, if people want to get weak in the knees and say that Monster Hunter 2 is the best Monster Hunter game ever, fine. Maybe for them it is, but to me, one of the good things about Monster Hunter is that there is a progressive improvement from first to second to third gen. Then fourth changes certain things fundamentally, but it's still acceptable in my opinion. And then fifth gen just throws it all out the fucking door and turns the game into God Eater. But, and I don't mean that literally, I mean that in a sense that it becomes more generic and no longer like Monster Hunter in the way that I see it. But, yeah, there is literally an improvement, a progressive improvement of the game. And Monster Hunter 2, rather than building on things that can be improved, to me, just went in a totally different direction, sought to change things, and unfortunately, because it existed sort of on its own, I suppose in certain ways it did build on first generation, but because it did something that they didn't continue to do, I can't really look at it in context with the whole series and say that it's a good iteration of Monster Hunter, because I feel like it was wasted. You either go for it or you don't. I don't think it's a bad thing that they tried with DOS, I just wish that they had committed to it. I don't think it would have been a bad decision to continue with that. They could have continued with that system of seasons, or maybe they realized it was just too complicated for what they had in mind, you know, maybe other things that they wanted to introduce in the series didn't gel properly with that system and the quest system of DOS, and it was just all a little bit too much. I don't know what was in their heads. What I can say is that DOS on its own has a lot of room for improvement, but there was no improvement, so what am I to say about the game? It's fun, it's interesting, and I'm enjoying it at the moment, but, yeah, could be better. What am I doing with myself? Once again, I don't know what the hell was put on the board, so I'm just going to use something random. I'll probably, yeah, I'll go blunt something or other. Blunt greatsword, I suppose, sure. Yeah, I like day and night cycles for the online, and also for the offline, just to give you a sense of living in an interactive world, like a real environment. Naturally, time passes, and so, even if it's just an aesthetic thing, and in the case of the older games, how it worked was, if it was daytime in the village and you departed on a quest, you were going to be in the day, and then if it was night in the village, you departed on a quest and it would be at night. That sort of thing. Which is cool. I like that. But, you know, the idea that, you know, with seasons, for example, the idea that it's, you know, it's the summer, so it's too hot in the desert. You can't go in the desert because it's too hot. I mean, I don't know about that one. I'm not too sure about that. I think if you're just going to let someone hibernate in the bed anyway, like, what does that really mean? What significance does that really have? I don't know. I said that I wasn't going to go into the detail of Monster Hunter DOS, and I sort of have here. I don't know if you've noticed that I'm tiptoeing around certain things when it comes to that, but yeah, I don't really want to get deeply into it, because I'd rather have these conversations when I'm playing the game, because then you can actually see it in front of you. What I'm talking about can be, I guess, confirmed with your own eyes as I'm playing, and then, yeah, it also helps for demonstration, instead of me just describing it, I guess. So yeah, I'd rather save those conversations for DOS, but I may not be playing that on camera for a while, at least not until the servers are running for it, and I don't know when that's going to happen. So, yeah, it's an exciting time for old Monster Hunter, though. There are running and fully functional servers for Monster Hunter 1 and G. Monster Hunter 2 is on the way, much sooner than Monster Hunter 2. Indeed, there is Monster Hunter Tri. And, yeah, brilliant for old Monster Hunter. I think it's a strong enough community and a strong enough video game series where there will always be a healthy group of people playing the old games to create a community. And it gives me great pleasure that there is such a community of people. I think it's inevitable because it's a quality game that, to be honest, can no longer be experienced with new iterations, so that will naturally create a sustained community of people who want to play these games and enjoy them. And because these people, in their full, complete numbers, can't really play these games forever, naturally you will have new people getting involved. New hunters who want to try out the old stuff. And whether they stay or go depends on them. And their taste. And I guess also their open-mindedness. You do need a pretty open mind if you're playing old Monster Hunter after having started, for example, in 5th gen or what will later be awkwardly referred to as 6th gen. I don't even like saying 5th gen because what it does is it assumes that somehow it's not just fucking rebooted Monster Hunter. I would rather just call it rebooted Monster Hunter. I don't think it's a trivial matter that generational naming was done away with. I think it's literally a reflection of what Capcom intended to do. Now you could say, well, what about all the monsters that were brought back? Well, I think that has less to do with a desire to create a linkage between Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise and the older games, and probably more of just intellectual laziness while simultaneously playing on what hunters want anyway. You know, they want to experience the old monsters in the new system. So, and that's something that people naturally want to do, but, you know, creatively I think Capcom love that. Awesome, we don't even have to think of a new monster design. We can just use old ones. Of course, that's not to suggest that it's literally a carbon copy of the original monsters. They'll incorporate new things, but in terms of designing an actual monster visually and the basic skeleton, I shouldn't use the word skeleton, that means something else in Monster Hunter, but, you know, the basic idea of the monster is already there and has already been there. But I believe that it was 100% intended for Monster Hunter World, and obviously Rise, to be a departure, an actual departure. And so I consider it a reboot, and I don't like calling it 5th gen. I don't think that's the point. Yes, so I think it's, yeah, Sunset and I don't know, I can't remember. I think the translations have changed slightly, so I, off the top of my head, can't remember the night and day herbs and other such things, but yeah, there is such a system. Here we go. Got a mantle out of all that. I don't know how long I'm going to record for. I may as well just play it safe and do 2 hours. I'm not sure how much of the first recording I'm going to keep, so we'll just have to find out. Alright. But as far as DOS is concerned, I'm playing it as much as I can. Part of me wants to play Freedom 2, but I can't, in good conscience, put time into Freedom 2 when I could otherwise be putting time into DOS, so I haven't been doing that. Just been playing DOS. I want to play more Monster Hunter 1, but haven't been doing that lately. I've been playing a little bit of Freedom 1 because there has been a patch released for all 3 region ISO files, which removes the input detection issue, which is excellent. How good is that? The thing that I've always been complaining about, vocally, when it comes to Freedom 1, has been the terrible input issues. And let me tell you, it's almost entirely solved by these new patches to those ISO files. So, I have run the patch, I've tested it out, and by God, it's excellent. It's really, really good. I think that was, whatever he's called, Valstrax, that was put on the board, so I'll just use something elemental. Alright, Insect Leaf. What's my best elemental insect glaive? Probably Fatalis Overlord. I've just got a feeling. I'm not sure what you mean by super combo thing, but basically, well, Freedom 1, when you press the buttons to do anything, sometimes the game just doesn't register that you've pressed those buttons. It's really bad. So, a change has been made to essentially remove that input detection issue, and what that effectively does is mean that you can play the game normally. That's really what it translates to, is... yeah. I don't even think that it's about pressing the button at a specific time. I think that's the reason why there's an input detection issue, but you see, it sounds as if it's intentional when you phrase it that way, but it's really not. It's different in the Japanese version. I've played the Japanese version. There's none of that at all. Like, the fucking weapons just act as they should, based on your inputs. There's a little bit of input detection issue going on there, but it's 10 times worse in the US and European versions, so yeah, I don't know. In other words, it's a good patch. It just makes the game so much more playable, so much more enjoyable. So I will try to play more Freedom 1. The reason why I don't record Freedom 1 very often, needless to say, is because there's not many people playing. So it's hard to get a good group together. Because it's not just about having like one other guy occasionally hunting. I need like a consistent group for a live stream, which is harder to actually organize than you think when you have a specific window in which you can play and record. So therefore, the stars have to align, basically is how it works. It's not as convenient as, I can play now, so let's just get a group and play. It's more complicated, sadly. Wish it wasn't, but it is. It also doesn't help that a lot of those people are from a time zone that's very different to mine, so my availability tends to be quite different to theirs. Yeah, I'm also really glad that people are putting the effort in to improve those older games. And by improve, I don't mean actually make changes to them, I mean just make them more playable. Like, you know, removing debilitating button input issues and making it so that you can play the game in English, things like that, you know, those are great contributions. Freedom Unite Complete, however, making changes like, I don't know, being able to eat in the hall area, I don't know about that. I don't like changes being made along those lines. I'm a little bit too much of a traditionalist and a purist to agree with that sort of thing, but yeah. As far as just improving on actual problems with the game, yeah, that's great. And it's excellent that there are people doing it. I'd like to get your face, wherever you are. There you are, hold on. Face, almost got it. You're so wide, do you know that? You're very wide. Got your face. Got your nose. Oh no. No. I don't mind you flying away, just not splashing me with dragon stuff. I don't know why, just mentioning dragon stuff made me automatically go for my nullberries, and then I remembered, no, that did not actually eventuate in that way. I was not under the effects of dragon blood. I'm not aiming for the face because I believe there's a full elemental resistance on the face during rage mode, if I remember that correctly, so I'm just keeping away from it, I suppose. I'm choosing my timing carefully with Extract Hunter. This Sheng X guy seems to really like dying. I don't know what it is. He's got something of a penchant for fucking getting carted back to camp. what I would say is that you've got 4 people here, including yourself. Just take it slow. One step at a time. There's no trophy for the quest being completed quickly. I don't know what I'm saying. But the point is, well, you know what I'm trying to get across. Just take your time. Watch the monster, learn its moves. There's no urgency here. Maybe that's just the crystallization of his impatience. That was kind of cool. I had positioned myself to avoid his rocket attack, but just as he... well, almost just as he got it out, he was knocked down on the ground. And that was quite satisfying. Oh god, I wasn't able to avoid that one. Where are you? Can't fucking see you. Still got hit, fuck you. Dived a little too early though. I do have to admit that I don't really understand what that is when it looks like he's breathing in a bit. I don't know if that's to work up to an enraged mode or something like that. I don't know what that is. You'd think I would know by now, but I just never informed myself as to what that even means, so... yeah. Every now and again you'll get blank spots in my knowledge, it happens. Oh. If you're wondering why I'm quite often blocking my 2 nostrils, it's because I'm like trying to unblock my ears. Still getting over a little bit of my sickness, I suppose, is what I would say. Alrighty. As per usual, the main Elder Dragon of Generations Ultimate is dispatched in short order. I don't know why they deemed it acceptable to have such low HP for this fucking monster, but it's something I've complained about before. I needn't rehash the grievance. To me, if you're going to have a, flagship Elder Dragon, which Valstrax is, make him strong. Don't make him this weak. I mean, sure, he's dynamic and he can do a lot of damage under the right circumstances. He doesn't have much health, does he? It's sad. That's one thing that I don't like about 4th gen. It's the weakening of Elder Dragons. Now, I suppose 4 Ultimate had its own way of making Elder Dragons stronger. By way of guild quests. Fine. In the case of this game, it's literally event quests, and that's about it. For Elder Dragons, because there are no hyper Elders, you see. So... why? Why weaken Elder Dragons like that? At least Triad strong Elder Dragons, like Gemmoran. Oh yeah, Gemmoran, that monster's crap. Well, I don't care. I like Gemmoran. He's an Elder Dragon, and he's got a lot of health. Something you can't really say for the modern Elder Dragons. And, some people will say, well, what about World and Arch-Tempered? Shut up. To start with, that's sort of like a hyper-equivalent anyway. What's wrong with just having Elder Dragons that are very strong from the beginning? We don't need special versions and all of that. Just have strong Elder Dragons like the old days. Ones where you repel them and have to kill them in a second session because they have so much health. I mean, that's great. It really sets them apart from the rest of the monsters, and it makes killing them more meaningful. Oh, but it's impractical because it takes so long to craft their stuff when you have to take all that time to kill them. Well, guess what? If you can successfully repel, you do get rewards. So it actually incentivizes you to survive until the repel takes place. Whereas if you die, yeah, the health will carry over. At least, I know that's the case for... I think that's only the case for Fatalis. I don't think that's how it was for the other Elder Dragons. But my point is that you are still rewarded for the repel. It's not like you're not getting materials. You can, in fact, in most cases, get materials from a repel that you would expect to only get by breaking something. So, yeah, and in some cases I find the repel rewards to be better. So, Yeah, I think those were the good days of Elder Dragons. And let me just make it very clear that even when they changed things a little bit, where you couldn't really repel Elder Dragons, except for, I suppose, Gemarand in 3rd Gen, Latrion was a respectable and very strong final boss Elder Dragon. He was a lot more dynamic than fucking Fatalis was in those days, and he had a lot of health. Especially the G-rank one. He had plenty of health in Tri, but by 3 Ultimate, fucking hell. He had a lot of health. He felt like a proper Elder Dragon still. And then you get to 4th Gen and they're just weak and pathetic. Not in terms of how they fight you. I don't want to take away from the fact that Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate did a really good job updating the movements of those monsters and their attacks and just how they interacted with the hunter. Really, really well done. But the health is too low, in my opinion. Hello is just staring at me curiously like,
How could it take a person so long to get ready?
my guess is that this guy just uses the same fucking loadout for every quest. Now, my friend, how you remain entertained under those circumstances is a fucking mystery to me, okay? You might be sitting here wanting instant gratification, but the question I ask is that how on earth could you be getting any gratification from using the same loadout repeatedly? I just don't get people like that. Doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, AFK? Hello? In this case, literally, hello. Anyway. We are doing Hellblade 9, which I believe to be hiring. So, lovely. Yep, it's hiring. I don't want to do it, but that's what's on the board. Makes me feel a little better about using a charge blade on a Hellblade. That's not really a rhyme, because I used the same word twice, but it's fitting. My point is that I don't really like using Charge Blade on certain monsters, and for some reason, I don't like Charge Blade on this guy. Might be because I do tend to use Charge Blade in this form a little bit, so it's very horizontal, you know, I like something that can hit higher. But of course, Axe Mode is generally capable of doing that, so whatever. That was quite a visual effect. That's because it's exploding, I suppose. Which is the distinction between a Hellblade and a standard Glavenus. Bit more explosions going on here. Why put down a trap only to immediately abandon it? Impatience is the answer. Fucking impatience. Such an extraordinary sort of impatience that you literally can't even commit for as much as 10 seconds to waiting behind a trap.
Waiting? I have weapon, I hit monster. I do damage.
That's about the extent of the strategy that's being employed by these people. I mean, how could you possibly be sitting there waiting behind a trap? Because you know what that involves, don't you? An investment of patience for a fair return of, you know, a vulnerable fucking monster. Now, you guys would argue, well, they didn't wait and they still got the benefit of the trap being activated. Yeah, because I was standing there. Only dumb luck that the monster immediately came for me at that point. Literally dumb luck. To their way of thinking, DPS is higher if they just go in there and attack. But if they all stood behind the trap, the monster would be in the fucking trap so quickly, the loss of DPS would be fucking negligible. That's the logic that they can never seem to handle. They just... It does not compute. Me hit monster. That's something they can fucking understand. Anyway. Got a knockout. I'm certain that that was not my work exclusively. Someone else must have been building up KO. In fact, it may have been the other Charge Blade guy, now that I look. Alright, let's do some Ripper Shield. Oh no, that's one of two. Glavenus fucking dead. Very well, let me try and get my charge up. Can I? At all? No. Very well. I'm probably going to run out of red shield by the time I engage the next one. Unless the other one's roaming the area as we speak, which is possible. Yeah, I did this weird-ass thing called Bring Psycho Serum, so... yeah. I'll be able to confirm that one way or another. It seems that it is actually one at a time. For some reason. Why? I never understood that. Why have it be in a locale? And yet have it be one after the other? Like, why have consecutive hunts like that? When it's only two monsters and it's in a locale. Seems strange to me. This guy's so mobile, look at him go. I don't think you can go straight into that thrust with guild style, you need a different style for that. Although I tend not to do that thrust anyway. I don't know why. Is that going to destroy that trap, or did they remove that? They removed that. Oh my god. Now, what's wrong with that shit? What's wrong with a system where if the monster spawns on the trap, that's technically digging and therefore the trap gets destroyed? That literally promotes accurate placement of a trap for a spawn. There's nothing wrong with that. That's rewarding skill and actually memorizing the movements of the monster. Something that apparently in modern Monster Hunter, there's no value to that. It's just, oh, it's unfair if the trap gets destroyed. Well, guess what? Monster Hunter wasn't always fair. You learnt to deal with it, and then you would get quite a lot of satisfaction out of getting to a point where I did not mean to do that. I don't know what I meant to do, but it wasn't that. But yeah, getting to the point where it's no longer a problem because you have developed skills to compensate for the inconvenience, that's what Monster Hunter used to be about. But you can see, things were beginning to just go in a totally different direction in 4th gen. I mean, case in point, let's just make it so that, you know, traps don't get destroyed from monsters spawning up from underneath them. Let's make it so that you can dive during a Kezu hunt because he can fully see you. Let's make it so that you can pitfall trap crabs. Let's just, you know, why incorporate knowledge and skill into any of these things?
It's unfair. What if a person puts down a pitfall trap with a crab and it gets destroyed? Oh no, their pitfall trap is lost.
Well, it was probably a pitfall trap that you gave them for free anyway. Fucking assholes. Like, this is what happens when you baby these people. Again, part of it, I was just talking about how the changing multiplayer system of Monster Hunter was a chicken or the egg scenario, which, in my opinion, was more to do with the changing of gamers rather than Capcom trying to dictate to us how we were going to play Monster Hunter. But in the case of, you know, streamlining like that, where we just don't worry about certain things not working with certain monsters anymore, I mean, fuck off. And certain unique aspects to monsters, like you can't dive during a Kezu hunt because he can't technically see you, and it's a monster seeing you, which allows you to sprint, etc., etc. I mean, that was a clever thing. Without going into some sort of debate about whether you being seen by the monster should be taken literally, maybe the monster sensing your presence is good enough, without having that argument, because that's an argument that can be had. It's not an argument with substance, because that's not the point, but you can have it if you want. What I'm talking about here is the fact that Kezu had his own little unique thing, where you can be assured of the fact that if you've positioned yourself poorly in relation to that monster when he's breathing those lightning balls, it's going to be pretty hard to evade them because you don't have the luxury of diving. That's pretty cool. That encourages you to be more careful with the monster. Here, they've rewarded careless play. And you've actually taken something away from the original games when you do that. From the older games. And you know, it gives me pleasure to be able to sit here and grill Capcom for the streamlining and the decisions that they took in this game, when this is still a game that is entirely playable for me, and a game that I can enjoy. Now, obviously, the grievances that I have in relation to 5th gen are much more severe, because I wish that those games never existed, and I refuse to play them. So, that should put things into perspective. I can sit here and talk about the mistakes that were made in streamlining Monster Hunter in the 4th generation until the cows come home. But it's still, in my opinion, acceptable. It's playable. I can get through it and enjoy myself, but some things were just needless and detract from the experience. And in the name of what? Like, who benefits from that? In these individual changes, this is the thing. You can have individual changes which don't do much on their own, but collectively, when you put it all together, it makes a big change to the overall experience of playing the game. Now, that was calculated on the part of Capcom. They're making small decisions to create a more comfortable experience for people getting into Monster Hunter for the first time. That's what all those little changes are about. Now, in my opinion, you're actually detracting from the experience by simplifying it in that way. So, yeah. Streamlining can be good, but you have to know when to stop. Progress can be good, but you have to know when to stop. Because, yeah, progress is positive, but if you've reached, like, the perfect balance, and you sit there and go, oh, well, it can't stay like this because we have to improve or try to improve or evolve for the sake of evolving. Well, what happens with that thing that's perfectly in balance? That thing that's perfectly in balance is then out of balance because you've tried to improve something that doesn't need to be improved. I think if there was a little bit more vision, like real vision, with the Monster Hunter development team, we would have a better 5th gen today than what we have. But no, I think they took a very careless direction choice. That is burial, so I'll bring something fire-related. Blunt fire, perhaps? What do I have that's blunt fire? Do I have blunt fire? No, I don't want to use dual blades. I always go with dual blades for burial in this game. I don't know why. It's always sword and shield and dual blades for this monster. I need to try something different. Maybe longsword. Blunt fire longsword? Do I have anything like that? Sheng X is saying something in a language I can't understand. I don't know why I'm being vague about the language in question, but I've made my point. Molten Vulgar, well, I wouldn't use that for blunt fire, that would be awkward. Aha, I do use the Wyvern Blade Garnet for this, and the reason why is because it doesn't have all that much blue sharpness. The reason why I have this for blunt fire longsword is because, and funnily enough I actually use this for my standard longsword loadout which has sharpness +2, the reason why I use this is because there is not a better alternative that starts at green sharpness, okay? So yes, technically this starts at blue sharpness, but I can work it down to green sharpness and get a real big boost in damage. So I will work with that. And you'll see, it's already working with 355 raw attack with 34 elements, so it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. Look at this, fucking Longsword Larry team right here. All of us are Longsword Larrys right now, and I don't mind. Well, no. Longsword Larry doesn't mean you're using a longsword. Longsword Larry is a state of mind. It's a style of play that goes beyond just equipping a longsword. Longsword Larry, again, I say this because, or rather I tell this story, I expand on what I'm saying here, for the benefit of people who weren't around for Monster Hunter Tri when Longsword first got its progressive spirit gauge. Now, the spirit gauge always existed with Longsword. Before that, it was just Greatsword with Longsword weapon designs in 1st gen, so I don't count that. It was always Greatsword. For as long as Longsword was its own weapon type, there was a spirit gauge. But you see, you couldn't progress to the next level. That final spirit slash that takes you to the next level was something that was added in Monster Hunter Tri. Now, in Monster Hunter Tri, Unhinged Spirit was actually how the Longsword works. So this Hunter art that I have here, Unhinged Spirit, makes it so that your spirit gauge does not deplete when you go into spirit mode, or when you do spirit combos. And that's just how the longsword was. eventually it would deplete, but that would only be if you weren't hitting the monster. If you had stopped hitting the monster for a while with your longsword, that is when it would start to deplete. That's how Monster Hunter Tri was. Now, do you know precisely what that encouraged? Endless spirit combo spamming. With a complete disregard for what was going on in the hunt. Just go for it. Spam that R button and mow down the monster. That was Monster Hunter Tri with the longsword. And that was so effective, so damaging against monsters, because as you all know, the longsword has pretty much always been a very strong weapon type anyway. But imagine if you have a system like that, where you're just doing endless spirit combos. That's like endless maximum damage. Consider the fact that once you get into the red spirit gauge, and your gauge never depletes, how much damage you could do in a short space of time. DPS-wise, it's incredible the amount of damage you can get out with a longsword and Tri. So obviously, it was an entirely legitimate strategy to just sit there and spam that R button. That created the Longsword Larry, the people who literally would just sit there and press the R button, because why do anything else? What that created was a scenario where if you were using any other weapon, you better believe you were on your hands and knees. Unless, of course, you were using a switch axe, which was another shit weapon in those days, but, well, that was shit for a different reason. Not because it was so good that it was imbalanced, it was actually a bad weapon, so... Yeah, people used it because they saw the infinite axe chop and thought, oh, this is so much damage, I can attack infinitely. Yeah, well, it's pretty shit motion value, so actually you'd be better off just swinging it normally. But, yeah, don't tell them. Don't tell anyone about it. You'll hurt their feelings and break their hearts. But yeah, the situation... Oh, for fuck's sake, why put down a trap, right? Literally, why even bother? So the Longsword Larrys were constantly flinching teammates because they were so aggressively pursuing maximum damage. It didn't matter what they did to team members. It just... all that mattered was their longsword and their ability to endlessly swing it with a spirit combo. So, that was that. P-Berry, I actually know someone who hated the 4 ultimate longsword system where you could actually lose levels, like you would return back to the beginning, right? At a certain point with your red gauge in 4 ultimate with the longsword, you would actually return to no level at all, if I'm remembering that correctly. Now, I know a person who refused to use longsword in 4 ultimate because of that, which is so funny to me. Like, whether or not I agreed with that balancing decision, that did not even begin to affect my ability to use longsword to the extent where I would boycott the weapon type. That was extraordinary to me. And you know, he was a person who played quite intensely. Like, he wasn't a casual player. He put a lot of time into the game and a lot of thought into the game, but he just could not countenance a change like that. Could not handle the fact that his red gauge would return to nothing after a certain amount of time had passed. To me, whether or not I agree with the balancing decision, their heart was in the right place when they did that. When they made that change, what they were looking at was a weapon that was so strong that some changes had to be made. Some sort of effort had to be gone to make the weapon a little less strong, something a little more balanced. And I don't think it was that much of a misjudgment. Seemed alright to me. And it certainly never annoyed me excessively. I mean, when I first saw that system existed, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, well, fair enough. It's a strong weapon type, I'll deal with it. Whereas other people threw a fucking tantrum. I don't know. And I say threw a tantrum in a dismissive fashion because I don't agree with the logic of it, but I suppose I shouldn't use words like that. People are entitled to their opinions, but more importantly, they're entitled to have different priorities than me. But in my opinion, you know, I have all of these things that I complain about with Capcom and the decisions that they've made, but to me, the desire to balance longsword is a good thing to be doing, so I wouldn't for one moment try to discredit that or in any way trivialize it by saying, oh, what a stupid implementation of that idea. If that if that was poor judgment, the result was not damaging enough for it to be a problem, because in my opinion, that was the right thing to be doing. That sort of thing was good. So when I'm dismissive of that opinion, that's the reason why. It's because I think to take issue with it is misplaced. I think it's a bad idea. I think you should be encouraging that sort of thing. And to be petty, if you're that much of a longsword player, I don't like you anyway. If you're that much of a longsword player, like, go away. Anyway. There's nothing wrong with being a longsword main as long as you use other things as well, because longsword is so accessible, so basic and easy to use. There's a reason why Sword and Shield changed from being the starter weapon to longsword. Longsword's now the starter weapon in the series, the now rebooted series. And of course the reason why is because it is even more simple, isn't it? And as a result of it being the new default weapon, it's now stronger than it ever has been, in my opinion. So, there you go. Crazy. Do I agree with that? No. You don't want to get me started on the balancing decisions of weapons in Monster Hunter Rise. For two reasons. The first is that I will start and I will not fucking stop. The second reason is that I'm no longer sufficiently informed to comment, because I do not know of the changes that were made in Sunbreak. So, yeah, some things may have changed in Sunbreak, so my concerns are no longer relevant, in other words. But I would guarantee that not enough has been done for the game to be playable for me. And the reason why I know that for certain is because I know Capcom's direction of travel. I know what their priorities are, and I know what their vision is. And I am so diametrically opposed, so philosophically opposed to what they're doing with that series, that I find it appalling, and my way of dealing with it is by completely disengaging. Completely disengaging. I am being, like in this particular recording, for some reason or another, I am a little bit more conversational about 5th generation than I usually am. It's a one-off, don't expect this going forward. Just every now and again I feel like talking a little bit about it, not much, but a little bit. And then most of the time I pretend that it doesn't exist, because it grosses me out, it makes me sick, and I have very little respect for people who play those games. Not as actual people, but the fact that they play those games is something I can't have respect for. Like, I don't respect that at all. I just want to make that very clear. Anyone who's like, oh, but I play those games. Does he not respect me? No, that's not my point. My point is that the fact that you play them, to me, is thoroughly detestable. Take it or leave it. Anyway. But I accept it because, as I say, people have different priorities. If you play the game for raw entertainment and you don't have the same priorities that I have, I'm sure you can play it and enjoy it. But the reason why I have so little respect for the fact that you play it is because the fact that you play it and enjoy it means that you contribute to the success of those games. And it is the success of those games that has resulted in the death of something that I once enjoyed. And not just something that I once enjoyed. Literally my favorite video game series is dead because of you. Or rather, you contribute to that by playing them. Just to give you an idea of why I feel so strongly about it. It's not personal. I'm not sitting there going, this guy, you for playing that game, I hate you. It's not like that. But the fact that you play it actually makes me a little sick. So that's the situation. Bolt Reaver EX with Goldwyn. Excuse me. Bolt Reaver EX with Gohan. Looks more like Gohan than Goku. Maybe it is Goku, I don't know. But, Monster Hunter Now, yeah. Monster Hunter Now would be a great title for... In fact, you know, Monster Hunter Now, I mean, the naming of it's quite acceptable, isn't it? We've just been talking about how Capcom are making games for the modern gamer who seek instant gratification, and what do they come out with? Monster Hunter Now! Entertainment, now. Satisfaction, now. Don't work for your pleasure, we'll just hand it to you. I don't know. Whether or not that statement is applicable... What is going on with this guy? He's invisible. That's a glitch, that's not... Oh no, he's a cheater. This guy is a hand-on-heart cheater. Now, if you're wondering how this is possible... Maybe I shouldn't call him a cheater. He is someone with a double-cross save who has ported it over to Generations Ultimate and is using armor from double cross that doesn't exist in this game. Therefore, there's no model for it. He's literally invisible to me. I can tell that it's stuff from double cross because it all says dummy, which is the placeholder name for anything that's, you know, Japanese original but doesn't exist in this game. So, yeah, that's why he is invisible. Oh no, he is actually a cheater. He's got 1,420 true raw on his God's Archipelago. You little waste of space. Look at him. See, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Remember what I said to you guys? Never give people in this community the benefit of the doubt. You end up with shit like this. 1,420 true raw on God's Archipelago. That's what you fucking end up with. I mean, what I don't understand is why someone sees fit to come in here with cheats as egregious as that to ruin a community that already sucks. This community is already bad enough without his negative involvement. He just left because he gets it. He knows that I know that he's a fucking cheater and that I'm not going to put up with it. How pathetic is that guy? He doesn't even have the self-confidence to assert himself in the fact that he's a cheater.
He's just like, oh god, he's looking at me a lot. Oh god, he's not joining up on the quest. Oh shit, that's it, I'm out of here.
Like, what a pathetic waste of space. You absolute oxygen thief. Waste of human life. Like, ugh. I just don't understand it. Anyway, apparently just by looking at that guy's armor set, that's chased him away. So, fine. At least we don't have to deal with him. I would have just left, it's just that I was sitting here monologuing, and so I didn't end up leaving as a result, and that was apparently enough to intimidate him out of the room, which is actually funny to me. What does he think? That I'm Capcom staff? I'm gonna get him banned? You dick. Not Ariel, fuck no. Adept, please. We're gonna keep with Bullet Geyser, hopefully these guys realize that I'm actually getting ready for the quest. Because indeed, I have changed weapons. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, oh wait, hold on, he's not a cheater. He's just ported his double cross save over to Generations Ultimate. And then I look at his attack and I realize, oh, actually no. He's a little bitch. That's what he is, a little bitch. And I think the way he just left the room like that is proof that that characterization, that way that I have referred to him is entirely apt, entirely accurate, and I hope he doesn't show his face around here again, because that's the last thing that this community needs. People killing the monster way faster than... I mean, here we go, Capcom GU says go. Hold on, I have something to say about that. Shut up! If it weren't for me, you'd be playing with a cheater. And there's every likelihood that that would give you some considerable pleasure. I don't know. So I've told him to shut up. He can deal with that however he wants to. I don't care. He responded with an ellipsis. Actually, that wasn't him, that was Goldwyn. Goldwyn responded with an ellipsis. Yes, extraordinary, isn't it? Not dealing with someone who wants to say go. I mean, fucking newsflash, my friend. You telling me to go? Is he leaving? Aww.
Poor boy.
Look, I'm readied up. Did I hurt your feelings? So easy, says Capcom GU. I'm readied up. Open your eyes and engage your brain. I'm readied up. So easy. Oh. Jesus Christ. Like... At least you don't have to take my word for it when it comes to these people. You know, I entered this room saying this community is shit enough already without cheaters being involved. And then when I get rid of the cheater, the natural bottom of the barrel nature of this community rears its head. Go! I want to go now! I ready up. I'm leaving. This quest is easy with 3 people. Why don't you want to go right now? I'm leaving. I'm gonna do something else. Well, you know what? We'd be playing right now if you weren't being such a fucking idiot. Fun fact, we'd be hunting right now. But instead, you've gone somewhere else to, I don't know... be a little bitch again. It's not very creative to call these people little bitches. I understand that. It's not exactly an expression of fierce articulation, but like it's extremely apt to refer to them in that way. All right, are we ready to go now? That is the question of the day. I think so. Yeah, that is a bit like a Western anime dub voice. Ugh. Fair enough. Yeah. AFK? Lord? This guy... Hold on. Guys, do you know how much time passed? Do you have any idea how much time passed? Have you guys been keeping track? Hold on, let's just... let's go to the next... let's go to the next level. It's not his fault. It's not his fault, it's just I've built up a frustration at this point. Fuck you. You absolute imbecile. Go. Go. What are you, a robot? And another ellipsis from Goldman. I don't think this guy can speak. All he has said so far is ellipsis and question mark. He's actually got nothing to say. Now, what you can do is you can leave the fucking room. I feel bad for Goldwyn. Technically, just because I've been here... He can't get a group together. He should have kicked me in the first instance, I suppose. I'm the weak link, apparently. I'm the one who's causing chaos to unfold because these people, like literally, Goldwyn, from what I could tell, was making his way to the door and this guy's like, go. It's not a request. It's an order. It's like an ultimatum. Go now. I'm in this room. I dictate to you when we depart. I have been here for precisely 60 seconds, and I'm telling you to depart now. Ugh. And because I told him exactly what he was, well, actually I didn't call him a name, I just said fuck you, which is fair. He, you know, figuratively speaking, burst into tears and left the room, which is fine. Anyway, the community, as I said, speaks for itself. And for those who think that I'm counteracting toxicity with toxicity, therefore that's not going to create a positive situation, I don't care. This community went past the point of no return like 3 years ago. So I'm not concerned about negatively contributing in any sort of way. In my opinion, it's negatively contributing to accept that sort of behavior as acceptable and normal. So I would rather sit here and cuss these people out when they behave impudently or impertinently So, to me, yeah, that might be technically a negative contribution, but it sits better with me than to sit here and pretend that it's okay. I do genuinely feel bad for this Goldwyn person. Just me being here has prevented him from departing. He doesn't have much to say, though. I mean, is there a way to scroll through chat history here? Chat menu. Can I scroll through it, please? Chat log X. Let's have a look at what Goldwyn said so far. Okay. So, I mean, I sort of feel sorry for him, but I also think it's kind of funny that he's just responding with full stops. Anyway. My phone's about to die, which is annoying because that's what I'm using to monitor the chat. That's fine. I'll go and plug it in. And look, I don't want to leave the room with this guy because I'm the reason why he's got no one to play with. I've caused all of his... I caused a cheater that could have helped him out to leave, and I caused 2 impatient dickheads to leave, and now he's stuck with me, and just him. I feel bad for him, you know? So I'm not going to abandon him now. I'm going to go and charge my phone, and then I'll set up my computer to read the chat. One sec. Alright. Yes, and exactly. This is why Capcom is releasing Monster Hunter now. Because the hunters don't want to hunt in 2 minutes. Or even 1 minute. They want to hunt now. Right now. At once. Shocking, really. Yeah, this is the thing. Impatient people didn't start with 5th gen. It's a chicken or the egg issue. Impatient people started. They began to exist and play video games around the time Gen 5 came out, coincidentally. That's really the reality of it. Capcom had their finger to the pulse of the new generations of video gamers, that's a fact. And they fucking capitalized on it. Beautifully. Just beautifully and brilliantly. They decided not to stagnate, and instead step up to the plate for the people who, quite frankly, had less substance to their entertainment requirements than people of the past. Is that an opinion? I suppose so, but I don't think it's something that's up for debate. I think there's less substance to these people now, and you're seeing it. In this recording, these are the people who are playing nowadays. What I wish is that I could communicate with them more effectively. You know, I'm reminded... Oh, thanks, Yamatori. Yamatori is here saving this room. What a good man. I miss the old first-person shooter days when I had a mic connected and I could just fucking lay into people. Now, I was a bitter... this is going to sound funny. In those days, I was a lot more bitter and nasty than I am now. Can you believe that? Yeah. That played out in my head. That sentence came out in my head and then I realized, oh shit, like, actually the worst side of myself as a person comes out when I record Monster Hunter, so that might sound funny to you, but no, truly, I was a very bitter, nasty sort of person. I was sort of like what you would consider these days to be a League of Legends sort of person. You know, those bitter, unpleasant people. That's what I was like when I was playing first-person shooters, because that's what those games turn you into when you play too much of them. That's why my first-person shooter days are very much behind me now. But you know, in those days when I could connect a fucking microphone, at least, you know, the people who were moronic could get an earful of what I had to say. Here, I'm talking to myself. Well, talking to you guys, but they can't hear what I'm saying. The best that they get is a shut up or a fuck you from me in the chat, which doesn't mean much because they can just go, oh, and then leave the room. And that's how I imagine them to be. So, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm picking up my toys and going home. Fuck you. But, yeah, it doesn't necessarily give me pleasure to act in a toxic way, and yeah, I'm technically toxic. Oh, Doomlink's so toxic. It's for a reason. There's a practical reason why I behave in this way. And hopefully, it's self-explanatory and I don't need to justify it. You can all see it for yourself. Okay. Come on, Goldwyn, you've got a friend. He's passed out at the table, don't worry, man. We're here, we're ready to hunt. I'm going to ready up to indicate that I'm prepared to depart. The beauty of this is that we're probably going to fail anyway. But this guy deserves the opportunity to give it a try. What's the monster? It's Bolt Reaver EX. As you can now see, I was a bit late answering that question. Alright, let's see what we... Oh, sadly, we had a fourth person join just as we departed. But I didn't want to run the risk of keeping that guy waiting for too long. I wanted to do the right thing by him and show a willingness to depart as soon as I can depart, with the understanding that I've caused him to sit around waiting for way too long. So, it was the right thing to do. I regret that that fourth guy wasn't able to join in, but you never know, he might have sucked at the game and ruined things. Anything's possible. With the understanding that we may actually fail this quest anyway, I'm going to actually play as well as I can. I'll put an effort in. I'm shooting well outside critical distance because I think I have True Shot. Don't know? Yeah, True Shot up. Whoops. Why did I fucking roll through that? I responded to the instinct of... the instinct of reloading when I'm out of ammo before I evaded through that roar, which actually would have allowed me to reload anyway, so that was a bad decision. Ugh, don't want to get hit by that. That's an insta-kill for most people. Surprisingly, it wasn't for Goldwyn, so obviously whatever his loadout is, it is appropriate for this quest. Because if you have failing thunder resistance, or something that's not good enough, that attack's going to kill you in one hit. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. And he took it. So it gives me some confidence in our ability to succeed in this quest. Let's see what we can do, eh? I don't know what that attack is. Goldwyn sadly could not sponge that hit. Sadly, however, that was an impressively telegraphed attack, which is to say, I don't know if there's a good reason for him to have taken that hit. If he's reached EX, he should, to be honest, be familiar with how the monster oh, dear. That's alright. Chances of success have now dwindled. Doesn't mean I'm not going to stop trying. Sorry. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying. I meant the opposite to that. Goldwyn nearly got hit by that too. Maybe it's just a fucking miracle that he hasn't died 3 times already. That's actually what I'm starting to think. Because if his loadout is good for this fight, that's fine, but if he doesn't have the skill to match that... I think he's disconnected. Oh shit. What's the point? Did he rage quit? Did he just turn off his machine? I don't even care. I didn't dive that because, you know, I was going to abandon anyway. My plan was to abandon. What's the point of 2-manning when the person who posted the quest in the first place, wanting it to be completed, has seemingly given up? That's what it looked like to me. I don't know. I don't think he turned off his system. He looked like he was in mid-confrontation, so maybe he had a disconnect, which is unfortunate, but I don't think he just lost an opportunity to kill that monster. I'm pretty sure we were going to fail, and it was probably going to be his fault. So, there you go. I feel bad for that guy. Genuinely, I think that I may have negatively impacted his experience there, but I don't personally regret the way I was interacting with those impertinent, scummy people. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is the best. Yeah, well, it would be if it weren't for all of you. Actually, it wouldn't be, but still. It'd be closer to being the best if it weren't for all of you. I'm sorry, I keep reading this as Jews. Am I the only one? I see that in my peripheral vision and I just see Jews, that's all I see. Promise. Promise wants help with Hellblade EX. Also, Yamatori, thanks for joining in. I'm moving on to another room just because, I don't know. There's not much going on in that room, in other words, so... seeing what else is around. Yes, it is Fartner again, professing his adoration for the game. Let's check out Johnny 2G. Maybe he plays Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, who knows. Probably not, but that can be my headcanon. Jeez, that room filled up immediately. Sorry, I was passing up on rooms with 3 people so that I could have Yamatori play with me. Okay? But this previously empty room is now a full room almost immediately, so... yeah, sorry about that, Yamatori. I wonder what he's up to. Should I just say go? Should I type go into the chat? Or P1? Johnny? Johnny AFK? And then if I don't get a response in 10 seconds, I'll leave. And no one would bat an eyelid.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
And then they would leave too. Polar Peril, this quest again. That's fine. That's one hunt that probably would be included in the first half of the recording, because I seem to recall that it was the first hunt. So if I'm not including that, it means I'm not including the first half. At all. Firelight Bowgun, haven't brought it out in a while, so I'm more inclined to use it. If you wonder why I don't often use my Elemental Light Bowgun loadouts, it's because I feel like I overused them a little bit, because they are so delectable. I love them. R&J left for some reason. But yeah, they are so enjoyable that I overused them a little bit, and now I'm not as inspired to use them. Or at least I wasn't up until this point. So, let's give it a try. I'll just bring Fire S, and to be honest, happy to 3-man. This will probably be the last time. I've been live. Yeah, I've been live for an hour and 49, so this will probably be a 2.5 to 3 hour long live stream for the full VOD. Yeah, P1 post. Alright. Rathalos entered the hub. So we've had Mizutsune in previous recordings, and we've also got Rathalos. To be honest, Mizutsune is better. Rathalos just comes across as generic, because he is just a generic Monster Hunter monster at this stage. Some people might love Rathalos. Oh, he's so cool. He's a dragon, and he's red. Okay, well, power to you, but if you're going to name yourself after a monster, why would it be Rathalos? Seems a little strange to me. But maybe some people like Rathalos because he's so standard. We won't say generic, that's not what these people would refer to him as. They would consider him to be a little more inspiring than generic. Or rather, they consider him to be too inspiring to refer to him as such. Just, what word would they use? Traditional. He's very traditional. But, yeah, I don't know. Starting off with Pierce Flaming level 2, because that's part of what makes... oh, for Christ's sake, the hunt just started, man. That's part of what makes Elemental Light Bowgun so much fucking fun in this game. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Well, I've said it more than once. I've said it many times before, but I will repeat it. One of the best things about Generations and Generations Ultimate is the bowguns and the existence of internal ammo and so many different types of internal ammo, but beyond that, it's also the multiple levels of elemental shot and also the different types of internal elemental ammunition. Very cool. Adds a lot to the game for people who enjoy that sort of gameplay, and I do enjoy that sort of gameplay. But I do understand you don't see much of it anymore from me. And I regret that somewhat. I think I managed to flinch in there. What's that guy's heart chat message? What do you mean? How do I access the chat? Where's the chat? There it is. His heart chat message is, I'll punish you. Okay. Why are you turning this into something sexually sadistic when it's referring to a monster? Keep your fucking fantasies to yourself. Johnny 2G with the sadistic, kinky messages. I'll punish you, Carlos. Wink. You freaky fucker. Like, what the fuck? And now I have to keep reading it every time he uses, I don't know, Hunter Art 1, because we all need to see I'll punish you heart, or less than 3, whatever, every time he fucking uses that Hunter Art. It really adds to the experience, honestly. I don't know what I'd do without it. There would be a hollow, there would literally be a heart-shaped hole in my Monster Hunter experience without that fucking message. And I'd wonder what on earth was missing. This is now the 3rd time that it's appeared. It's starting to make me wonder what the message for Hunter Art 2 and 3 is. Maybe I don't want to know. Oh, am I? Okay, I'm not at the right angle to get hit by that, which is good. Maybe Hunter Art 2 is I'm going in dry, sweetie. I could foresee that, definitely. Well, it's a little more explicit, isn't it? But still. Sexually sadistic, in a sense, and also kind of gross. Which seems to be how this guy is. I don't know, I'm extrapolating a lot, aren't I? Was that really G-Rank? Hold on. It was G-Rank! And he's just he's actually manually sent a heart. I mean, this is some interesting conversation going on in this hunt. This community, man. If ever any of you wanted to know why my shout-outs are fucking hell, absolute fucking bullshit, what else have we got? Could you maybe stop missing your fucking flash bombs, my friend? How about waiting for everyone to be at the monster first? When I say it's ready for capture, don't attack. What else have we got? You just fucked up the detonation. Oh, for fuck's sake. Your time isn't worth as much as you think. You can wait or you can leave. Do you know how long ago I wrote that? Around the time the game came out. So if you think that the impatience of hunters in this game is a new phenomenon, well, I wrote that in 2018, so yeah. This is what you have to do when it's difficult to communicate in a video game. You have to take the time to write out shit like that. And it's annoying. Anyway. They found him in the goop. Yes. Well, there isn't anything like that written in there. I'm surprised you remember that though. Oh, everyone just cleared out. That was such a successful hunt. Let's not recreate that. Let's end on a high note. Speaking of ending on a high note, that's going to be it for this recording. I hope you all enjoyed. There's a little bit of drama in there. There were cheaters, there were idiots, there were fine exemplars of the Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate community, which quite frankly justify my typical behavior when hunting with these people. As I say, I hope that it's all fairly self-explanatory and that I don't need to sit here and justify the way I act. I understand that it's abrasive, prickly, unfriendly, some would say toxic. I don't care. It's my natural reaction to what I consider to be just incomprehensible stupidity. So, with that, I thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time I'm playing Monster Hunter. Hopefully, it's not this fucking Monster Hunter game, because while this might be entertaining for you to watch, this is fucking draining for me to do, so I bid you all farewell for now. Bye-bye.